I never thought I'd encounter my own brother at the leaders' conference. And to make matters worse, he's now my adversary. This is more than a surprise, it's a bombshell. Chapter 21 Classy Porn Star. I think every alpha, Luna, Beta, and whatever other kind of pack Wolf is in this hotel believes that I've been cloned. Compared to what I am normally, I've been an angel. It hasn't been easy. Not in the slightest. But I've been doing a good job. It's taken a lot of mental strength and tongue biting. But I only snarled at someone once. Other than that, Roku. Okay, so I know I'm not even close to being the L word. It doesn't take a genius to know that. But I'm trying to be better. I really truly am. I don't want to just prove it to Matteo but stupid Alpha who thinks I can't do it too. I almost gave up about 10 minutes into the first meeting we had the morning after I promised Matteo I'd try harder. Some snarky alpha made a slight comment about how a rogue me shouldn't be trusted amongst a room of alphas. And I was about to tear him a new one. Matteo beat me to it. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. It only took one question for Matteo to have the alpha looking like he wanted to dive into a volcano. Matteo has been trying harder. Too. To everyone else. It might seem as though he's suffering from sleep deprivation or drug use. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. He's trying to open up more. His way of opening up more is to talk more. It sounds like it makes sense. But Matteo just babbles about nonsense. It's never really anything important or remotely relevant. It's normally meaningless chatter. I know he's trying to open up, but he's kind of failing. I think he has issues. We sort of got somewhere after we had an hour-long conversation about why I never celebrated Christmas. Apparently, it's something we both understand. I did most of the talking. But Matteo chimed in every once in a while. For a brief 10 minutes afterwards, Matteo got into a deep conversation about his dad. It was obvious Matteo loved and missed his father even if he talked about him in a moderately bad light. He didn't say much about him. He just talked about how he trained Matteo. And it oftentimes ended in broken bones and bruises. I didn't push him beyond what he was offering. Once he started to zone a bit, I took that as my cue to switch subjects before he got too uncomfortable. I already knew he wasn't comfortable talking about himself or his dad. I wasn't complaining. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. He was trying to do something that he obviously and that he all thought he would have to do. We were both doing things completely out of our comfort zones. Hell, I was making friends. It may have only been 2 days, but I think it could quite possibly be the best 2 days that Matteo and I have ever had. Even Daniela was being nicer, and by nicer I mean she was withholding a lot of comments. Basically, she just didn't really talk. Do you like this outfit? Or does it look too librarian? I asked Matteo, who had been sitting on the bed in front of me as I tried to adjust the tight, navy blue pencil skirt. Matteo's eyes took their time as they wandered over my body. Matteo, I snapped, trying to pull him from whatever trance he was in. His eyes snapped up to mine. The outfit. I don't know what kind of library you're going to if you think you look like a librarian, Matteo stated as he picked up a dark navy tie that I had laid out on the bed for him. But you didn't answer my question, I retorted as I took the tie from his hands and began tying it around his collar. I'd come to learn that Jack had always been the one to tie Matteo's ties for him. Hence, why he never learned. You always look good. I sighed and took a step back once the tie was neatly displayed. I know, but the outfit. You look like a classy porn star, Matteo said with complete seriousness. I think my mouth hit the floor. What? A classy porn star? I repeated, not entirely sure whether or not I heard him correctly. Yeah, but not in like a bad way, he explained, but I was just as lost as ever. How is there a good way? A classy porn star. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Matteo stood up from the bed, which caused him to tower over me. It kind of annoyed me, considering I literally had a pair of heels on. As if sensing my irritation, Matteo placed a swift kiss to my cheek and walked over to the mirror. "Kai, your skirt thing looks hot," he stated, running his hand through his hair before turning back around to face me. "Happy, you compared me to someone who gets paid to have sex on video," I reminded, crossing my arms over my chest. "Yeah, I know," he said as he grabbed my hand and began leading us out of our room. "But a classy one. What the hell is the difference?" "Classy is good. It's like, my mate is hot even when she looks like a librarian," Matteo explained. He pulled the door closed behind us and locked it casually as if he was saying so totally normal. "You said I didn't look like a librarian," smacking him on the back of the head, causing him to chuckle under his breath. "Kai, relax. I was joking," he confessed as he dragged me to the elevator. "Seriously, do I look like a paid whore?" I winced while he pressed the button to take us to the second floor where the meeting room was. By the humorless expression on my face, I hoped he realized how much I was not joking around. Just because I embraced my inner slut didn't mean I wanted to show it to every alpha and Luna out there. I had come to the conclusion that with Matteo trying to open up, his childishness was coming out. This included getting on my last nerve with his little jokes. It wouldn't be so bad if he knew how to make it more obvious that they were jokes. He just stares at me with the most serious expression possible, and it makes it extremely hard for me to tell if he's just messing around or not. "No, Kaye. If you looked like a whore in any sense at all, I wouldn't even have thought of letting you leave the room, nor will I ever." "Well, you could have just said I looked good." Matteo's head immediately snapped in my direction with a look that just screamed, "You have to be kidding me." He looked like he really wanted to say something, but he just shook his head instead. "I'm not even going to start with you because I know I'll lose. To my agent extraordinaire, begun heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm," he stated as the elevator doors opened. "Learning to pick your battles," a sudden voice said, which managed to scare the crap out of me. I jumped, causing Matteo to immediately become his same old mean, stoic self. If he hadn't had such a death grip on my hand, I'm sure the owner of the voice would have been hiding on the floor from a harsh jab to the neck or just laying on the ground lifelessly by now. "Darren, knock that shit off," Matteo snarled, looking Baron menacingly in the eyes. The imbecile had been leaning on the wall next to the elevator, and for some reason, I had a gut feeling he was waiting for Matteo and I to come out. I was just being friendly, Darren defended as he followed Matteo and I down the hall. "Yeah, he was definitely waiting for us. Can't you go be friendly with someone who actually considers you a friend?" "What's the fun in that?" Darren asked as he sped up and got in front of Matteo and I. He turned around and started walking backwards so that he could see the two of us. I inhaled a deep breath of frustration, but was met with a cinnamon "why" scent when I did. "Geez, a little heavy on the cologne there," I commented, earning me a confused look. "I didn't put cologne on this morning." "Stupid ass," Darren retorted. Matteo growled lowly in response to Baron's newly adopted nickname from me. "Watch your f***ing mouth before I stuff my fist in it." Matteo threatened another whiff of the air. Cinnamon. What the hell? That was definitely a new scent around here, but for some odd reason it didn't feel new to me. "I need to pee," I piped suddenly. That wasn't suspicious at all. "Well, talk about blunt," Darren scoffed. "I'm going to beat the shit out of you," Matteo began saying as he released my hand and started walking toward Baron. I knew Matteo wasn't dumb enough to start a fight with his biggest rival right here, right now, but I could tell that he would love to strangle Baron. I mean really love to. Starting a fight with Baron could cause a war that no one needs. To my agent extraordinaire, begun heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Matteo was too smart to do something so stupid. Watching the two of them take off down to the conference room, I made quite possibly an extremely stupid decision to follow the cinnamon scent. "I'm going to regret this," I mumbled to myself as I started down the hall in the opposite direction of my mate and Alpha Eared. The farther down the hall I walked, the stronger it got. I was a bit confused how I hadn't noticed it as soon as I stepped out of the elevator. But I just assumed that when Barrett startled me, it managed to gain my full attention and not leave any room for my mind to wander to a scent. I just couldn't wrap my head around why the scent seemed familiar to me. Normally, I had a pretty okay memory, but the fact that I couldn't remember such a distinct scent angered me a little. I definitely knew that scent. I was walking past the men's bathroom when I collided with a giant mass of muscle that had been walking out. He seemed to be in just as much of a hurry as I was. The contact caused me to fall backward. The heels I had on may have been cute, but they really were not doing my stability any justice. Shit, I grunted as I landed right on my butt. FK, sorry. The man apologized as he pushed himself up from the floor. I wasn't paying much attention to him, and the thought of the cinnamon scent was completely off my mind at this point. I was more focused on trying to pull my skirt back down. I really didn't need some random guy seeing my black, cheeky underwear with Daddy written on the butt in hot pink sparkles. They were comfortable. "Let me help you," he said as he held out a hand to me. Without a second thought, I took his hand and allowed him to help me up. "Thanks," I started saying, but froze as soon as our eyes made contact. My heart stopped, and I for sure thought I was about to die right there from an aneurysm. What is he doing here? He's not supposed to be here. "Kaye?" he asked in disbelief. His icy blue eyes that I remembered so vividly stared directly into my own. I could see the panic swimming around within them. This is bad. This is so bad. My rogue brother is in Manitoba during the leaders' conference. Not only in Manitoba, but at the same freaking hotel. Talk about bad timing for everyone else but him. Well, this definitely wasn't just some coincidence. "Kaye, what are you?" "I'm sorry." I breathed, not even taking a moment to think before placing my hands on both sides of his face and snapping his head sharply to the right. The sickening crack of his neck echoed through the hole as his body crumbled to the floor in a heap. "Why are you so stupid?" I shouted in a whisper as I pointed to my unconscious brother accusingly. In my defense, it was entirely his fault for trying to be serial killer at the same time that I was trying to be a respectable alpha mate sorter. "Look what you made me do. Stop trying to kill people," I scolded as I used all of my strength to drag my brother down the hall. The last time I saw Caden, he was 15. That was 5 years ago. After he left, I spent a year alone in Frindicta. During that time, he got taller. He had to be nearly 6 to now. His build was massive too. He was almost as heavily built as Matteo. And that is saying something considering he benches like 4 of me easy. His hair got a little darker, and it wasn't in the short buzz cut that I remembered. It was shorter on the sides and longer on top. He even had a bit of stubble growing along his jawline that looked like it could cut someone. Caden definitely didn't look like a little boy anymore. "I hate you for making me do this," I grumbled as I opened up a closet door and shoved him inside. "Get in there," I ordered as I kicked his foot into the small space with the rest of his limp body before slamming the door shut. I didn't know what to do now. Scream. No, that would be bad. Tell Matteo. No, he'd probably want to kill my brother. Deciding it was probably just best to deal with Caden by myself when he woke up from his unconscious state. I let my nails elongate a bit and used my pinky finger to lock the door shut. It was something my mother taught me how to do when I was younger. "This is so not good," I whispered to myself as I walked back to the conference room. I kept looking behind me every 5 seconds to make sure Caden was still trapped in the closet. "Look." Baron's voice sounded throughout the room, making me cringe. He was definitely trying to draw more attention to me than necessary. She didn't fall in after all. "Baron." Matteo growled as his eyes started shifting to a much darker color. I think Baron expected me to say something to finish Matteo's warning, but it never came. I just quietly made my way over to my normal seat without a word. I didn't see Danielle anywhere, so I figured she was just running late or something. Way to go. Dan, where is my fearless protector when I need her most? It's only fun if you play along. "Kaye," Baron advised as I took my seat next to Matteo. I reached for his hand instantly, which was something I never really did. Normally, Mateo was the one to grab my hand first, so I think I took him by surprise for a second. Sit down. I spat, looking at nothing in particular. I didn't know who to look at or what to look at for fear that I might crumble under pressure and scream. My big brother is locked in a closet, and he's come to kill you all. What do we do? I think I was having a mental breakdown. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I will. Baron smirked as he took his usual seat just as Fair walked into the room. I watched as the two of them made eye contact. Now I know what Jack means when he says that he can feel the sexual tension. It was there. There was no denying it. I hate him, Mateo admitted. I didn't say anything. I just answered with a slow nod. UK. I think I'm going to throw up. I answered honestly. Why? Because I just locked my unconscious brother that I haven't seen for 6 years in a closet. What do you mean why? Alpha idiot 2.0. I don't know. I mumbled, not daring to look Mateo in the eye. I just kept looking straight ahead of me. You don't know? Yes, I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I snapped as my eyes moved to the table in front of us. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Mateo replied slowly, most likely confused by my unnecessary outburst. Little did he know that my murderous brother is in a closet. Well, Baron interrupted, sliding over so that he was right in Mateo's personal space bubble. Look who decided to show. In confusion, I moved my attention from the table to the door just in time to see a man walk in. He looked about Mateo's age. A look of irritation covered his admittedly handsome face. Alpha Mendax. Luna. He nodded respectfully to Baron and Farah, and then to Mateo. Alpha airs easy. His light hazel eyes found mine. His head tilted to the right a bit, silently questioning why I was sitting where I was, as his brows drew together. Oh shit. He knew about my brother being inside of the closet, didn't he? Brycecon, Alpha of Socias. He introduced himself, holding his hand out to me. I hesitantly allowed him to take mine. I expected just a simple shake, but he kissed the top of it. I was waiting for Mateo to threaten him, but it never came. Mateo must actually like him. I wonder if he'll like the fact that my brother is locked inside of a closet. Kaye. I replied, trying to seem as calm as possibly in thought I was having an internal crisis. Mate of Mateo. I pulled my hand back to my side and eyed him curiously. Nice to finally meet the person who can handle this prick. Bryce said with a warm smile. I returned the favor with a small, uncomfortable one of my own. An awkward silence settled over the five of us. I think Baron noticed because he just whispered out, and OK AAAY, and slowly backed away to his original spot. Mateo began as he cleared his throat a bit. Did you come alone? No, Bryce replied, shaking his head. Alec will be in shortly. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I asked to myself mainly, so many new names with no faces to put to them. My beta O. The awkward silence settled again just for a moment before Baron barged in again. And he, Bryce, and Mateo began having a conversation. I zoned out as they began talking about Bryce's resolved road problem. I cringed a bit when he brought up how he, to my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. And some guy named Taylor, who I assume was his gamma, got rid of it. Not mine. Oh, here he comes, Bryce said suddenly in the midst of their conversation. I didn't bother looking up. With my luck, his beta had my unconscious brother on his back in a back position. Shit. For the second time in one day, my heart stopped. In an instant, my eyes snapped up to meet the icy blue eyes of the voice's owner. The same icy blue eyes that should have been locked inside of a closet right then. A familiar scent invaded my nose that had goosed spreading over my skin. Cinnamon. I didn't know what to say, so I just said the first thing that came to my mind. What the FK? Chapter 20 to Heartbreak or Heart Attack. It was times like these when I wished I wasn't so emotional. Times like these when all I wanted to be able to do was push away feelings as well as my brother always could. My idea of pushing away feelings was just to become so psychotic that no one, including myself, paid attention to them. But how was I supposed to do that in a room full of alphas who would try to kill me if I made one wrong move? I'm not talking psychotic like I start yelling. At this point, I wish that was my form of psychotic. As if sensing my panic, Matteo immediately stood up from his chair and placed his hand heavy on my shoulder, keeping me planted in my chair. Even if I wanted to get up, I doubt I would have been able to. A low growl vibrated through Matteo's chest as a warning to Caden, who was currently locking eyes with me. "Wait, what's happening?" Baron asked, sounding like a kid who had just missed the first 5 minutes of a new movie that he couldn't wait to watch. I didn't answer him, and neither did Caden. We were both too absorbed in each other. A penitent look covered Caden's face, and regret shone in his bright eyes. "Kaya," he began, but I stopped him before he could finish. "What the hell?" Watching him closely with betrayed eyes. "What the hell? How are you even here?" "UF King left," I interrupted, completely ignoring his question. My voice rose as I started pushing against Matteo's hand. He put a bit more force on my shoulder, but I snarled and ripped away from his hold. "UF King left, and you've been here the whole time," I snarled, standing up forcefully. I could hear my chair roll back and hit the wall behind me with a bang. Again, emotional. Caden knew how I got. We grew up together. We trained together. He may have left, but that didn't change the fact that he was by my side for 13 years. "Alexei, what the hell is going on?" Bryce asked from behind me, catching Caden's attention. My brows drew together as my eyes narrowed in on my brother. "Alexei," I wondered out loud. Caden's eyes grew a bit, and he took in a deep breath, most likely already knowing what I was going to do. "You changed your name," I shouted in anger. "How could you just change your name?" I was about to make a leap over the table, but Matteo's arms wound around me. I could feel my wolf fighting to come out, and in all honesty, I wanted to let her. "Kaya," Matteo growled in my ear as my allignating nails began digging into his forearms. Matteo didn't loosen his grip. "To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." If anything, it got tighter. "You're his mate?" Caden or Alexei asked, pointing at Matteo. "Don't look at him," I snarled, trying to lurch forward. "It was just a question," Caden shouted back at me, making me flinch. Painful memories of when we would argue would evaded my mind, managing to make me even more upset. I had questions, too, you know. But, guess what? I never got to ask them because you were gone. I had no one. I screamed as I tried to pull myself out of Matteo's firm grasp. "Well, why didn't you ask Mom?" A cold ache spread through me at the thought of my mother. She wasn't there. Caden's thick brows knit together in confusion. "Dad." I didn't say anything. I just stared Caden in his eyes that happened to be identical to mine with the deadliest look that I could muster, understanding my silence and my hateful glare. He continued, "Why?" The simple, one-word question had a deep inner hatred bubbling out of me like a volcano. I always knew the answer to that question deep down, but I'd never said it out loud until now. I never wanted to say it out loud. It hurt too much to think my brother could be the cause of something that ate me up so much inside. "Because they were looking for you," I snarled as a sudden surge of strength rushed through my body. In one swift motion, I had managed to pry Matteo's hands from my body and flip him over me. His body smashed down onto the wooden conference table in front of me. The loud crack of the wood as it buckled in to snatch me out of my murderous trance. It was as if someone had just thrown an entire bucket of ice water over my body. My entire self suddenly went rigid as every cell in my body froze over. My mouth dropped in realization, and my eyes grew as they looked down to view Matteo groaning on the floor from the powerful impact to not only the table but then the floor as well. I gulped and took a step back. My eyes raised from Matteo to see every single pair of eyes in the room staring at me. I couldn't really blame them. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I did just smash an alpha into a table. Men stood in front of their mates in an act of protection, their intent stares all sending me the same message. If I made one wrong move, I was a gunner. I stuttered, shaking my head as my eyes moved around the room. Caden was no longer looking at me. He stood gaping at my mate, who I just managed to whip through the air like a rag doll. As everything began setting in, I had this weird achy feeling in my chest that made it feel like a fat sumo wrestler to sit on me. I hated it. Is this what heartbreak feels like? Can your own brother even cause heartbreak? I think I better go take a nap. I panicked as I started running out of the room. My body was a shaking mess, and I knew it was in no way a smart idea to shift now unless I wanted to die. Just when I was starting to act chivalrous, "Kai, don't," Matteo shouted in pained voice as I pushed my way to the door. I didn't want to see Caden, and I definitely didn't want to see Matteo. I already know what kind of screaming match was coming after the scene I had just caused. She just F-kin, through your ass. Baron, I just need a brick. I shouted over top of Baron and Farah's arguing and the sound of heavy footsteps which had followed me out of the room. I'd only made it about 3/4 of the way down the hall before the footsteps caught up to me. Just strong hands grabbed a hold of my body and turned me around to face the person that I hated to look at the most in that moment, because I knew I'd just disappointed him so badly. We were doing so well. My jaw was chattering like crazy. My hands were shaking, and it felt like every time I took in a deep breath, my lungs were on fire. I wasn't even sure if I trusted my legs because they felt as though they would buckle under me at any second. Was I having a heart attack at 19 years old? Sure feels like it. Kai, you need to calm down, Matteo shouted, which just managed to freak me out even more. He looked pissed. I just ninja flipped him into a table, and I was now waiting for my impending doom. If Matteo didn't kill me, my heart attack sure was. I stuttered trying to get anything out, but nothing came. I could barely catch my breath, let alone make a comprehensible sentence. What the hell is happening to me? Breathe, Matteo urged, trying to be a bit more calm. It didn't work. With a sigh, Matteo's hands came up to gently cradle my trembling face. I'm sorry about this, he apologized. I didn't have time to attempt to ask what he meant before he snapped my neck for the second time in the few months that I'd known him. I feel like there are a few things in life that a person just does not like to wake up to. For instance, a stiff neck. A few others could also be having been woken up by an abrupt, loud sound or having the sun shine directly into your eyeballs. Lucky for me, I was blessed with just the one. Groaning, I slowly lifted my eyelids to be greeted by Matteo's pillow from our hotel room. It looked like it was about to pop from how tightly I was holding it. The next thing I noticed was the irritating pain in my neck. It was dull, but it was still there. Ugh, I groaned as I cracked my neck to the side, making me wince. I hated waking up to a stiff neck. My eyes found the clock on the side table. It was only 804. The sound of a running shower was the next thing that caught my attention. Matteo must have been showering before we had to leave for a conference this morning. I sighed and leaned back against the headboard of the bed. Memories of what I'd managed to dream up invaded my head, making me wince. What kind of sick, twisted person am I? I thought aloud. I didn't like to talk about my brother for a reason. He left, and I wasn't expecting him to come back. I don't know what I'd do if he did. Especially now. My brother was the one person I could trust with anything. He understood me better than anyone else, better than Mom. Better than Dad. Sure, we fought, but who don't I fight with? Caden wasn't just my brother, but he was my best friend. The day he left, it was like my world fell apart a little. And when he never came back, it shattered me inside. I expected something like this from Mom and Dad, but never would I have thought Caden would leave me. That's what really hurt the most about it. At this point, I'm really not the person I was 5 years ago. If Caden came back, Most likely so with my 13-year-old self who really was not a good person. I was cringe-why. I was also a bit of an impulsive psycho with a shifting problem. Caden and I were always complete opposites. He was calm, cool, and collected at all times, while I was ready to tear at someone the moment he or she walked into the room. I hadn't even realized the water had shut off. The opening of the bathroom door is what stole my attention. I expected him to be in something more presentable, so I was a bit taken back when he walked out in just a pair of sweatpants hanging loosely around his hips. "Is your neck okay?" Making eye contact with me just like he normally does. "Yeah, a little sore," I chuckled, rubbing the back of my neck. Suddenly, realization hit, and my brows drew together in confusion. "Wait, how do you know I had a stiff neck?" Matteo never asked how my neck felt in the morning. No one did. It wasn't really a normal morning greeting to ask someone, because that's what happens when someone snaps your neck. He stated as if it were nothing, making my jaw drop. "Okay, am I missing something? When did someone snap my neck?" Matteo and I both fell asleep just fine after we had a conversation about Christmas and his dad. "I know no one snapped my neck." Matteo's brows drew together as his eyes scanned over my face. I think he was looking to see if I was joking around with him or not. "Matteo," I snapped, regaining his attention. "You don't remember?" "Remember what?" I retorted. "Alexei," he stated, making me even more confused. Alexei began to say just as memories from my dream pounded into my head. "Oh shit. Caden is here. And he's a beta. I didn't see that one coming." The confused look on my face quickly changed to a horrified one. I shook my head back and forth, not believing what had obviously happened. It wasn't a dream. "No," I breathed, feeling like someone had just dumped an entire bucket of ice water over my body. "This can't be happening." I felt small. I felt this heavy feeling on my chest, and my head felt like it was floating a little bit. For the life of me, I couldn't find the right words to say. Is this what heartbreak feels like, or am I having another heart attack? "Kai, when were you going to tell one of us that Alexei is your brother?" Matteo asked, sounding more like an alpha than a mate in that moment. My teeth clenched together, and my eyes narrowed. "His name is Caden." I snapped quickly. It was obvious by my tone that I wasn't the happiest. Surprisingly, I wasn't angry. I was hurt. Him repeatedly saying Alexei was a painful reminder of Caden's name change. Hell, I probably have the Alpha Vindicta hunting me down, and I didn't even know my name. I should really look into that. Whatever his name is. "You never thought you should tell someone about your brother?" Matteo continued shooting questions at me that just made me even more upset. The sadness was boiling within and coming out of me as anger. Anger was an emotion that I felt I could handle easier than sadness, so preferred to let it all out that way. Why would I want to talk about someone who left me? "You were rogues," Matteo stated, which made my heart hurt a little for some reason. "Lone wolves. Kaye. So he was still my brother." I snarled, getting out of the bed and pointing accusingly at Matteo. "Not all of us are as heartless as you all make us out to be. Some of us never got a chance." I didn't realize how badly I was trembling until Matteo firmly grasped my shaking hand. His dark eyes had connected with mine and softened. I think he realized in that moment that I wasn't just angry. Without warning, he pulled me to his chest and wound his thick arms around my shoulders. Instantly, I felt myself beginning to calm down. "This is some freaky VOO, do shit. You can't just come back like that," I said quietly. "Not after he just left me the way he did." What I was feeling was entirely new for me. I was not used to comfort. Not only had I grown up being told that it's wrong, but I never really liked to be comforted. It made me feel like I was a baby, and that I couldn't handle anything by myself. I didn't want people to pity me and see me as someone I didn't see myself as. In Hirsihasan, in my head, I could face the world and not even bat an eyelid. I was my own worst enemy. For some reason, I liked Matteo's comfort. "To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." It didn't make me feel weak. It made me feel like I wasn't alone. Surprisingly, it made me feel stronger. What happened between you two? Matteo asked calmly, instead of making me anxious and upset. His tone and actions managed to make me feel almost tranquil. He left when I was 14. I murmured. Out of everyone in my life, my brother was the one person that I thought would never leave me. He was my best friend. He looked out for me and stood up for me when I was too scared. He took what came with it. Dad was a big believer in discipline. I sighed heavily as Matteo's hand rubbed patterns on my back in a calming manner. He never liked what he had to do, but that's all we ever knew. So he did it anyway. I never thought he'd leave. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. He was 15. He couldn't even drive yet. The heavy feeling on my chest was beginning to return the more I thought about what had happened in the past. My eyes were stinging, but I buried my face in Matteo's chest to force the tears away. There was no note. No call. Nothing. He just disappeared. We didn't know if he killed himself. If someone killed him. If he was taken. Or if he just left. My mom was devastated. But she tried to act like it didn't bother her. She would cry when Dad wasn't around and when she thought I wasn't paying attention. Dad was beyond pissed. I never knew what to do. I didn't know what to feel. I was all these different emotions squished together. I was mad, upset, lonely, scared, frustrated. I wanted to die. After he left, nothing was the same. I stayed quiet for a moment. The heavy feeling was increasing by the second, and I knew I needed a break before I could finish. I was a little scared I was going to pass out or something. I never was one to get into detail about my past. Then, they left. I swallowed harshly, and I was alone. When did your parents leave? Matteo asked after a moment of my silence. About a year later. I just turned 15. I answered. My parents always looked for him. They would leave for days at a time to find him. One day, they just never came back. You just lived alone until now. I stiffened. Something like that. I felt Matteo pull back a bit so that he could look down at me. What? I quickly pulled away and grabbed his hand in a hasty attempt to dodge his question. Can we just go back to bed? I could tell by the look in his eyes that he wanted to push the topic a bit more. But I pouted my lip a bit, causing him to give in. With a tired sigh, he agreed. We both climbed into the bed. I stuck to Matteo like flies on shit. I refused to leave the safety of his brawny arms. Good night. Kai, Matteo mumbled into my hair. A feather, light kiss was placed to the crown of my head. It's the morning. No, it's 8 in the evening. Now, go to bed. I wasn't wanting to get into an argument, so I just nodded and stayed quiet. With my luck and lack of education, he was most likely right. I couldn't fall asleep. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I just stared at the wall of the hotel suite until I couldn't differentiate the darkness of night from the darkness of my eyes being shut. Chapter 23. Not man enough for balls. I didn't think it was selfish of me to hope that when I woke up Matteo would at least still be in the room with me. Apparently. Much to my disappointment, the first face I got to see when I woke up was Daniela's. I groaned in annoyance seeing Dani sitting on the chair beside Matteo and I's bed and rolled away from her. Well, good morning to you too, she grumbled. I decided to just stay quiet and pray that she ended up leaving. She pinched my arm. I jerked forward at the pain of her perfectly manicured nails digging into my skin. Oh, bitch, I snarled, slapping her hand away, as if I hadn't said a rude word to her. She rolled her eyes at me and sat back into the chair. Where's Matteo? My eyes followed the curves of her body, allowing me to take in exactly what she was wearing. A thick, black leather belt held a pair of form-fitting black jeans securely around her thin waist and hugged her legs. A light blue button-up with sleeves that cuffed at her elbows was tucked into the jeans. She didn't have a bit of jewelry on, which was weird to look at considering she always had at least a bracelet, but she was wearing a pair of black heels with a light floral design on them. The thought crossed my mind of how was she supposed to protect me in such a shoe. But then it occurred to me that Daniela's first steps were probably taken in stilettos. Conference. He's been there for about 3 hours now. Donnie stated. 3 hours? Why doesn't he wake me up? My eyes snapped over to the alarm clock. Daniela was indeed right. This morning's conference was set to start at 6, but it was already 8:40 am. Based on what Matteo told me, apparently you didn't even fall asleep until like 4. Kaye. Donnie scoffed as she played with a strand of blonde hair that hadn't made it into her messy ponytail. Having a Luna fall asleep during the middle of a conference isn't exactly something that's not frowned upon. Thinking back to it, it hadn't felt like it had taken hours for me to fall asleep. But then again it didn't feel like I was held in a prison for whole years either. I guess I just have a terrible perception of time. What about Caden? Immediately, a cold chill ran through my veins at the mention of my brother. Alexei. I corrected, remembering that apparently Caden Alish didn't exist to these people. Ode Daniela drug out as she connected the two with a slight chuckle. Right. I forgot about the whole name change thing. Where is he? I really didn't want to waste time with our stupid bickering small talk. I'd already wasted so much by allowing my anger to flare up previously. Well, she said, sighing, considering I haven't left this room today, I can't exactly give you a full sure answer, but I can assume that he's where everyone else is currently. You could have just said that he's probably in the conference. I grumbled as I ripped the covers off of my body and got out of the bed. What are you doing? Going to talk to my brother? Making my way to the door. No, you're not. Daniela rushed in front of the door, blocking me from getting out. What? Why, because you're a mess. You haven't brushed your hair. Your breath smells like shit. And there's this thing called deodorant, she explained as she continued to lean her body against the door. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilbert, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I would just recommend a shower. You're funny. But seriously, move it. I need to speak with my brother. Daniela closed her eyes briefly and drew in a deep breath before looking back at me. I can't. Alpha's order. I immediately began to laugh, after a moment of her dead serious facial expression not wavering. Oh, you were serious, I realized. My brows quickly drew together, and I took another step toward the door. Again, she blocked me. Daniela, I warned just to be interrupted. Listen, I'll get your brother. Just stay here, and maybe brush your hair or find your other sock or something. Daniela compromised, looking down at my sockless left foot. I quickly wiggled my toes, which earned me a weird look from the princess herself. Yep, that is definitely my foot that's missing a sock. I can just get him myself. I argued like the 7-year-old that I am mentally. Daniela growled lowly in response. Do you not understand that I can't let you leave? She snarled, taking me by surprise. Daniela had surprisingly been able to remain mostly calm throughout our conversation. I guess that was over now. Do you not understand that Matteo's orders have never stopped me from doing what I wanted to do before? I snapped back. What makes this time any different? Daniela let out a stress-filled groan. Okay. She sighed after a moment of me just staring at her like she was insane for freaking out about this so much. It was very unlike her to keep up with our bickering. Nolly. She would have just told me to have fun and kill myself while I was at it. In one swift motion, Daniela pushed my body back to the bed. The back of my legs hit the edge of the bed, causing them to buckle and my butt to land on the bed. What the hell? Down. But my words affected her little to none. You have about 30 anxious alphas accompanied by their Lunas. That is. And other high-ranking pack members roaming this building. After your stunt, which I happen to hear was a giant mess, we don't know what the hell any of them are thinking. Matteo doesn't want to take any chances, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but I agree with him. It's not safe for you to be skipping, and jumping around here with all of your shit and this conference shit going on. We can't afford you having another mental break at the sight of Alexei with all of those alphas around. Again, Daniela explained. I pursed my lips contemplating what she had said. Well, to my agent extraordinaire, begun丨Wolf, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. A little voice in my head was screaming, "She's not wrong. Dumb bitch." I knew I had to agree with the annoying voice. I didn't exactly want to die right now, and I was still dedicated to prove to everyone that I wasn't just some indecent rogue thing. "How do you plan on getting him up, you riffets, during the meeting?" I was not willing to outright tell Donnie that I knew she was right and give her that satisfaction. No way. Man, that's for me to know. Just go brush something. She shooed me away as she began making her way to the door. "Your hair, your teeth, anything," she instructed before leaving me in the room alone. What's with her and brushing things? I grumbled to myself as I made my way to the bathroom that Mateo and I shared. I soon realized why she wanted me to brush down the tornado of hair on my head once I had the opportunity to see myself in the mirror. After ripping the hair out of my head with a brush for 5 minutes, an announcement read all of the speakers in the hotel. "Alexei Cade, please report to the front desk." Again, "Alexei Cade, please report to the front desk." "Thank you." I chuckled to myself. Not bad, Dan. My chuckles quickly turned to a painful grimace as I violently ripped the brush through my knotted hair. I was really due for a haircut or maybe just some conditioner. By the time I had brushed my teeth, decided that a shower could be taken at a later time, put on some deodorant, and had a toothbrush in my mouth, I heard the door barge open. Judging by the bang from the door bouncing off the wall, it was as if Einbecker ran into it at full force. "To my agent extraordinaire, begun丨Wolf, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. We are on a tight schedule. 10 minutes. No. I don't need your alpha, mine, or anyone else coming up here in search of you," Daniela stated, to whom I'm guessing was Caden. I spit the minty white foam in my mouth into the sink and tossed the toothbrush onto it, not caring to rinse the toothpaste out of the bristles. I instantly ran out of the bathroom and came to a dead stop when my eyes connected with the icy blue eyes of my brother. My stomach starting rolling, and I immediately came to the conclusion that I had food poisoning. "Okay, you have 10 minutes to talk out your shit, and you just wasted 2 of them staring at each other," Daniela interrupted, causing Caden and I to return to reality. "Let's get this show on the road. To my agent extraordinaire, begun丨, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." I gulped and brought my bottom lip in between my teeth as Caden ran a large hand through his dark hair. I couldn't find a single word to say. Caden finally said, breaking the silence, "You left me with no intention of ever finding me again, and that's all you can say." The words fly out of my mouth before I have time to stop them. Like they say, drunken words are sober thoughts. The only thing is, I'm completely sober, just internally enraged. "Yep, I was waiting for that," Caden muttered as he crossed his arms over his chest. "Waiting for what?" A snappy remark. "Well, to my agent extraordinaire, begun丨, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." I was waiting for a slap to the face or a kick to the balls, but a snappy remark works, he explained. "One of the others can be arranged. Both if you like." I chided, causing his face to go white a bit and take a step back. "Come on," Daniela scoffed as she brutally pushed Caden forward. "Hug it the F.K. out." "No, not until you tell me what happened," pointing at Caden accusingly. "About what?" "When you left, why?" Caden's eyes shifted from my eyes to the floor, and then back to me. "Koya," he began. I could see the sorry swimming in his eyes. "The last thing I wanted to do was knowingly leave you alone. But you did," I interjected. "I left you with Mom and Dad." "Yeah, you left me alone. You were the only friend I had. Maybe I wasn't physically alone, but it felt like it. If anyone, I would have hoped that Caden would have understood. Our parents were barely company. Caden was the only person I ever truly had to reach for when I needed someone. You dedicated your life to proving yourself to Dad. If I took you away from him, you'd lose your entire personal purpose, Kaiden argued. The more he talked, the more memories surfaced. I felt like we were bickering just like we did before he left 5 years ago. That alone made my hands feeling as though they were just inside of an icebox. But you didn't have to disappear. Although I was practically spitting every word, the vulnerability in my sentence didn't go unnoticed. Kaiden's eyes softened, and his lips formed a thin line. You could have told someone. Hell, you could have left F, King note. You didn't have to vanish and leave us all to think you were dead. Kaye, you didn't have to change your F, King name. Was being an AA, B-lish really that bad? Shit, I knew you and Dad didn't get along. But did you hate us all that much that you had to completely give up the name? I ranted. It wasn't a secret that Kaiden and Dad never got along. Kaiden wasn't a big fan of the rogue lifestyle. He never was. It only got worse as he got older. He only ever did what Dad told him to do. And that was it. Nothing more. You know, I never wanted that life. Kaiden suddenly burst. That was barely a life. We were barely living. We weren't running to fulfill our lives. Kaye, we were running to save them. We were dead men walking from the minute we were born. My anger died down, and regret washed over me for even bringing up Dad. He was always a touchy subject for Kaiden before. I couldn't spend the rest of my life living as an AA-lish. If I did, I'd still be as dead as I was when I took my first steps. I took the chance to actually start my life. Kaye, I wasn't going to risk it by bringing Kaiden with me. I had to change it. My eyes shifted from Kaiden's to the floor as I chewed on the inside of my cheek. My brows drew together, and I was sure if I had the strength to look back up at Kaiden without saying something stupid. I understand, I whispered. I did. I didn't want to admit it. But I understood it. Being an AA-lish came with consequences that I would no doubt be paying for the rest of my life. You do, he said in surprise that he actually got something through my thick skull. Yeah, I nodded. I do. Kaiden AA-lish is who Dad wanted you to be. Alexei Cade is who you are. I paused for a moment to collect my thoughts. I held my bottom lip in between my teeth once again and inhaled deeply before saying anything else. I could never change my name because I'm still Kaye. Sure, you left. We have no clue where Mom and Dad are, and I'm not trying to prove myself to Dad every chance I get. But I'm still me. I'm just growing. I'm still Kaye. But you're not Kaiden. You're Alexei now. Some big beta dude that Dad would be so disappointed in. I concluded with a chuckle. Kaiden, or Alexei as I presume I should call him now, chuckled. As well, most likely imagining our father's bright red face fueled by pure rage at the thought of his eldest child being a beta and his youngest being a Luna. The world sure does work in mysterious ways. Yeah, he probably tried to castrate me or something. Alexei joked. Say something like, you aren't mad enough to have balls or some shit. He never really was the best with the whole family love thing, was he? Nope, not a bit. Alexei answered without a single thought. How'd you become beta anyway? Curiosity finally consuming me. At easy smile ate up his features. Long story short, I accidentally challenged the beta. Had I won? Accidentally. I questioned, not even sure how accidentally challenging someone was possible. Yeah. He sighed with a crooked smile, probably thinking back to the memory. What about you? How the hell did you end up on Sierra's territory? And why the hell didn't you leave? Well, I began. I was fully prepared to get into the details of my meeting with my hunk of a mate, but I was rudely interrupted. Nope. No time for story time. You have to get back to that meeting. You two can gossip at a later date. Daniela interjected as she pulled on Alexei's shirt to get him to go toward the door. Wait, I shouted, stopping both Alexei and Daniela in their tracks. Before anyone had the chance to ask any questions, I was already in front of Alexei, and the palm of my hand had made contact with his left cheek. The sound of my slap practically echoed throughout the room. I've wanted to do that for a while, I said with a smile as my brother cupped his cheek and stared down at me in disbelief at what had just happened. I wrapped my arms around my big brother and leaned my head on his chest. I missed you. To my agent extraordinaire, begun丨Wolf. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Don't ever leave me like that. Again, I threatened, earning myself a deep chuckle. I missed you too, Kaye. More than you know. Chapter 24 Can't Risk It. I would love to say that since the return of my brother things have been going smoothly. I can admit that Daniela and I have been actually getting along. After the incident, my ties with a well-respected beta and show of dominance over not only Alexei but Matteo earned me some sort of admiration among the Lunar EP6. Although I never actually spoke to her. Being the alpha female of such a large, influential pack, her high opinion of me that I'd happened to gain through sheer luck managed to earn me the liking of many other Lunars. This in turn secured my invite to many gatherings that a group of respected Lunars had been having without my knowledge. I'll admit, it hurt a little. Daniela had accompanied me to all of the meetings and helped me to fit in. Apparently, it was pretty vital that I didn't shift their opinion of me from respect to contempt. I think Donnie secretly likes my company now that we aren't at each other's throats every 5 seconds. She even went as far as to say she doesn't want to see me dead before we arrive back home. I do believe I am growing on her. Alexei and I are trying to figure things out. I really thought that after we'd resolved our issues and I quickly accepted him back into my life, that everything would go back to how it used to be. A foreign awkwardness settled between the two of us. It was as if we didn't know how to speak to one another, and I suppose it's because we didn't. Alexei was definitely not Caden anymore, and I wasn't the same Kaye he left behind either. We were practically just two strangers with the same unfortunate past. Our only thing we could bond over was something we'd rather not remember nor think about. Our reunion was far from the ideal that I'd originally planned or thought it to be. On to another item that can be added to my list of unexpected occurrences over the past 3 days. Matteo has practically been avoiding me like the plague. To my agent extraordinaire, begun丨Wolf. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I thought it was because he and I were just so busy and I was overthinking it. But it's come to the point where he's actually finding himself more pressing problems to solve just so that he has to stay in meetings longer while the Lunars are excused. In his eyes, pressing issues require the absence of feminine opinions. But in my eyes, anything important enough that it needs to be labeled as a pressing matter should be discussed with the Lunars of all packs. I was offended until I found out that one of the issues being discussed was just border rights. That's when it really sunk in that he was just trying to distance himself from me. Where did I find my information? It was a pitiful move. But Baron certainly comes in handy. That man will sure as hell do anything if he finds out that Matteo won't like it. He didn't mind spilling any information of the closed meetings to me one bit. Why would he? He knew just as well as I did how irrelevant what they were talking about was. He was more than happy to meet with me after the meetings to tell me what was being said. Even on our last night, he had managed to find an excuse to slip out of our room and leave me to pack alone. The thought crossed my mind that he could be meeting up with some girl to give him what I wasn't. But I knew Matteo. He wouldn't do that. That would require physical contact. And he could barely stand people standing too close to him, let alone some girl being all over him. I forced myself to stay up later than I have ever wanted to. I took much longer trying to make sure every article of clothing was neatly placed back into our suitcases. When doing so once wasn't a long enough time, I dumped all of the clothing back out and repeated my actions until it did last long enough for him to walk through the door. I knew it had been hours since he had left when the door slowly creaked open. I could only hear him coming since my back was facing the door. But I knew his scent better than my own. The door's slow opening came to a halt as did Matteo's quiet steps into the room. You didn't expect me to be awake. Knowing he had stopped because he didn't expect me to be standing at the foot of the bed just as he had left me hours ago. I turned around to meet the emotionless gaze of my irritantly handsome mate. Did you? He didn't say anything. He just watched me as I took slow, deliberate strides toward him. You planned to just come in here while I slept. Fall asleep. and then wake up before I had the chance to and leave again until we had to go home. Matteo didn't reply, but he didn't have to. His stoic expression said it all. I wasn't wrong. Why? His dark eyes staring down into mine, causing a cool chill to run down my spine. What could I have possibly done that has made you want to go back after we've worked so hard to get this far with one another? Again, I was met with silence and Matteo's intense gaze. So I continued to push. Matteo, work with me. Did someone say something? Did I say something? It's not what you said, Kai. It's what you didn't. Matteo finally spoke up, making me internally sigh in relief. If you're referring to my parents, my brother, we've been over this. I defended. I've told you things about my past that I've told little to no one. Yeah, because your brother came back. You told Jack about your parents. Were you ever going to tell me? My brows drew together. Enthusiasm, and my arms crossed over my chest as his words sunk in. Are you jealous of Jack? Someone who's not even here. Jack is one of the last people I'd be jealous of when it comes to you. At least he doesn't enjoy crossing me. And he knows better. Matteo stated. His jaw was clenched, showing me he was obviously irritated. Maybe if I didn't find his terrifying countenance so mouth-watering, I would have stopped my reign of terror for fear of him throwing me out of a window. So you are jealous? Who could possibly irritate you so much that you're ignoring me? I snapped, making Matteo even more annoyed than he had been originally. Just forget it. He grunted, pushing past me in the direction of the bathroom where he most likely intended to shower. Matteo, stop, I demanded, grabbing his arm and pulling him to a halt. Who's causing this? Who's crossing you? I asked as I recalled what he said about Jack earlier. At least he doesn't enjoy crossing me. No one enjoyed crossing Matteo. My mate was a beautiful man with a devil's soul. The only person really willing to anger Matteo was myself, and occasionally my eyes widened, and I took a step back. Baron, you're not seriously jealous of Baron, are you? A defeated look rested on his face, proving what I had said to be true. Baron, you're jealous of Baron of all people. I feel nothing for him. But you trust him. Matteo interjected roughly. Don't even start. He interrupted me. You're always talking to him and going to him when you need something. You tell him things freely that I can't even seem to force out of you. Matteo, I don't like him. I affirmed, trying to keep my voice as strong as possible. I wasn't lying, so I wasn't worried. I didn't feel anything for Baron the way I felt about Matteo. I'd never felt anything for anyone the way I felt about Matteo. But you trust him, he repeated. I don't trust him, I shouted in frustration. Baron Mend acts as a self-serving prick who can't even stay faithful to his own mate. How could I ever trust that? Then, why go to him? Why seek help through him and not any other alpha who was in those meetings? Because they wouldn't defy you. They're all terrified of you and what you would do to them if they'd happened to be caught. My frustration at this point was off the charts. Baron's ego here thrives on your irritation toward him. He would do anything that he knew you wouldn't like, even if that meant getting close to me. That's exactly the reason you should stay away from him, he concluded. A tired groan flew past my lips as my hands clenched into fists. I don't understand. You ignoring me was the cause of me going to Baron for help. It's your fault, I blamed, pointing my finger right in his face just before what I had said had a moment to work itself into my mind. Slowly, I drew back my finger. Wait, you were avoiding me before I even started meeting with Baron. Matteo's angered expression turned back to a stoic one as I continued connecting dots. There's something else wrong here, I accused. I'm going to take a shower. Are you trying to regress? Is that what you want? Are you trying to distance yourself now? A sinking feeling settled in my stomach. Kai, you don't understand. He tried reasoning, but I wasn't having it. Then, make me, I demanded. Help me understand what is so far up your ass that is affecting your head. Thanks to Nicole, you have the respect of some loonies. Some of the same loonies that were terrified of you just days ago, to the point that their mates deemed you as unfit to lead such a prominent pack. Not only did they belittle you when they questioned your ability to be an alpha female, but they belittled me by claiming I didn't have enough influence to push you in the right direction. They wanted me to reject you. I gulped, shaking my head back and forth. I searched the depths of his eyes to find some sort of lie, but he seemed to be an open book with me in that moment. He wasn't lying at all. They can't do that. I defied. Rejection that's not even possible. I was hoping that maybe if I continued to tell myself that, I might actually believe it. But it doesn't break the bond. It's just a petty attempt to end something fated, which is practically impossible. He explained calmly. I had no idea how he was calm. My heart was imploding inside of me, and my stomach felt like it was falling 10 stories. You're going to reject me. You're trying to distance yourself from me so that it hurts you less. I accused, backing away from him. Kai, no. I would never reject you. He quickly recovered, snatching my arms and pulling me to him. Our gazes were matched, and for the first time I could see real emotions in his eyes. I tried defending you. I tried telling them that you weren't what they thought you were. But when it came down to it, I didn't know what to say because I barely know you. I've told you things. To my agent extraordinaire, Mahlin Noban. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Recalling our various informational games. You've told me your favorite color and why you hate winter. I know the shit you see on an online dating site bio. My first real glimpse into your life was because a vital piece of it happened to pop back in. He pointed out, making my jaw clench. I know your name. Everything else seems to be a mystery. My personal life is complicated, but you'll know eventually. I mumbled as I tried to pull away from his hold, but he just pulled me back to him. That's just the problem. As I grow closer to you, you discover more about me, and there are things that I can't change or take back that might make you want to leave. He confessed, leaving me a bit confused. So he wasn't going to reject me. He was scared of the opposite. You're scared I'm going to reject you. Koya, I feel things for you that I've never felt toward anyone. You terrify me, the influence you have over me. I have no limits when it comes to you. There has never been a single person in my life that didn't have some sort of limit around me. But you just do as you wish. And I let you. If you rejected me, I don't know if I'd make you stay or let you leave. I don't know which one terrifies me more. Honestly, I watched his face closely, searching for anything that could make me question his honesty, but I couldn't find anything. To be truthful, it hurt a little to think that he believes I would just leave after everything we've gone through so far. Mateo, nothing that you throw at me from your past is going to make me want to leave. You don't scare me, I stated boldly as I brought my face closer to his. Nothing can with the past that I have. My voice was low and breathy, and all I could think about was how badly I wanted his lips on mine. I think he understood because he closed the space between us as soon as the thought popped into my head. My body immediately reacted to the heated, lusty kiss. The blood in my veins felt as though it suddenly began to boil, and I couldn't decipher if the source of the heat was from my lips or my chest. One of Mateo's hands held the back of my head to keep my lips against his, while his other hand pressed against my lower back to keep my body exactly where he wanted it. He backed us into the bed where my knees buckled once they made contact with the bed. His mouth continued to wreak havoc on my lips as his large frame trapped me beneath him. I was certainly not complaining. The heat from my chest was blazing like a fire all over my body, and it left me wanting to rip off not only every article of my clothing but Mateo's as well. My hands were in a hurry to hasty attempt to remove Mateo's shirt as his lips traveled painfully slow from my lips, along my jaw, and down my neck. I can't risk it. He breathed against my neck in between the much welcomed torment of my skin that he caused without remorse. I admit, I was a bit dazed, but I wasn't lost. I'd heard what he said. I just didn't understand what he was talking about. I could hardly remember what we were talking about that had even led us here. So his statement left me confused. Before I had the chance to ask, the answer had already come. The intense sensation of sharp canines piercing the skin of my bare neck jolted me back to reality. It was a combination of pain and pleasure, but the pain I felt kept me sane long enough to realize what I was getting myself into by not pushing him away or telling him to stop. By marking me, Matteo staked a claim on me that would be near impossible to break by anyone or ourselves. The mark that I would forever bear on my neck would be a symbol to not only Matteo but to the rest of his pack as well, that I was in fact his accepted mate and just one step closer to being an alpha, which was something that I was not ready for. A traitorous moan fled my mouth as Matteo's teeth released my neck, leaving behind his claim and moving back to my lips. I knew I was more in my right mind than he was in that moment, so I used that to my advantage. I forced a switch in our position so that I was no longer below him. I used my advantage of being on top to push him back onto the bed. No, I said quickly. My breathing was a bit erratic. I felt like I had just walked up a flight of stairs after a midnight snack. Matteo's lusty gaze found mine. Immediately, I watched as he sunk back into his normal state. It's not you. I swear. It's just the title. He interrupted me, concluding what we both knew. I offered him an apologetic frown, hoping he would understand. In response, he placed a light kiss to my forehead. It's all right. With that, he left me on the bed alone as he went to go take a shower. The door shut, leaving me totally alone. Just me, my thoughts, and my inner slut that didn't seem to understand how to chill the hell out. I gulped and raised my hand to my neck, feeling where Matteo had done his damage. Slowly, I brought my hand back and faced it, seeing it stained with a fair amount of blood, just proving once again what Matteo and I had done. He marked me. We just managed to set everything in motion in a matter of seconds that would change my life forever.